In this video, you will learn 5 key concepts and terms associated with Spring Security that you'll really need to know. When you learn Spring Security, you'll encounter these core terms and concepts over and over. So in this video, I'll break these terms down and explain them for you so that you know exactly what they mean. The first two terms are so commonly used in the context of security that it's kind of unlikely that you haven't heard them before. They are authentication and authorization. To understand authentication and authorization, you also need to understand the difference between the two. So let's tackle these two terms together. What is authentication and what is authorization? I usually like to imagine Spring Security as being this watchman or security guard in front of your web application and stopping every request going in. The security guard typically asks 2 questions. Who are you and what do you want? And it is your job to answer the security guard those 2 questions if you're requesting something from your web application. You answer the first question, who are you, by telling the guard who you are. Note that just telling the guard isn't enough here. You also have to prove it. Proof of who you are is usually by providing some kind of ID, something that only you can provide and an impersonator can't. And then you answer the second question, what do you want, by just stating what you want or what you would like to do. You don't need to provide any proof for the second part because there's really no point in anyone lying here. You can only possibly get what you ask for. So answering the first question, who are you, is what's called authentication. Most web applications have some representation of an ID. You open like a Facebook or LinkedIn, these sites usually have an ID or an account in their system that kind of uniquely corresponds to you. So when you access the site, you need to tell it which of those millions of accounts in the system that it has that corresponds to you. After you tell it which account is associated with you, you also need to prove to the application that it is indeed you. A common way this is done is by providing your user ID and password. It's a way for you to say, hey application, here is the secret password that I told you when I created the account. Here is the same secret password again to prove that it is indeed me. This type of authentication is called knowledge-based authentication. The authentication is based on knowledge that you have. This can be a password, or a PIN code, or an answer to a personal question, or some other secret that you know. The biggest advantage of knowledge-based authentication is that it's simple, and it's pretty effective for the most part. However, it does come with a disadvantage. If somebody steals your password or somehow finds out what your password is, they can impersonate as you. All that uniquely identifies you is this single piece of string value. There are, however, other authentication mechanisms in place though, like position-based authentication. This is, for example, when an app sends you a text message and asks you to enter it. It's trying to identify if you are in possession of something that the real user should be in possession of, in this case, your phone, because phones are slightly harder to steal than passwords. Other examples of position-based authentication include key cards or badges that you use to swipe and enter buildings. The idea is that only the real you can possibly be in possession of this card. So if your card is used to swipe to get into a building, it's likely to be you who's trying to enter that building. Some apps do a combination of knowledge-based and position-based authentication using what's referred to as MultiFactor Authentication. Enter your password and then verify your text message, right? 2-factor authentication, multi-factor authentication. So that's authentication, basically answering the question, who are you? Of course, with proof that you are actually who you say you are. Now let's move on to authorization. This is the security guard examining what you want and then deciding if you're allowed to do that. In other words, it's answering the question, can this user do what they're trying to do? It's a kind of like a yes or a no answer for a given operation. The user might be able to do one particular operation and they may not be able to do another operation. Let me give you an example. Consider a retail store application. Everyone who works in the store can log into the application and use it. They can authenticate with their user ID and password. But once they've authenticated, what each person can do in the application really depends on who that user is. A store clerk, for example, can probably access point-of-sale functionality or check if something is in stock. A department manager can probably see how his or her particular department is doing. And the store manager can see everything across the store, across all departments. So every time anybody accesses anything in the application, the app is doing this binary yes or no decision to arrive at an answer to the question, should this user be allowed to do this operation? It also has mechanisms in place to block the user from doing any operation that they're not allowed to do. This allow yes or no decision, depending on who the user is and what they're trying to do, is called authorization. So in a way, for authorization, you kind of need authentication first. You need to know who the user is first before being able to make a decision on whether or not that particular user can do something or not. So this is authentication and authorization, and the fundamental difference between them. These two terms are not specific to Spring Security, by the way. They're widely used in the software space in general, and they mean kind of the same thing. All right, concept number 3. This is also a Spring Security concept, but it's used in some other frameworks as well. The term is principal. We've talked about how authentication is the process of identifying a person trying to access the application. The principal is the person you've identified through the process of authentication. In other words, a principal is the currently logged in user. A principal is also a person I really used to hate in primary school, but that's a different story. In the context of Spring Security, it is this currently logged in user. It is that unique information or account in the system that you tie to a specific person in the context of the application. Once you authenticate with any application, say by giving your user ID and password, the application establishes the principal and it remembers it. This is the reason why you authenticate with an application only once, and you don't need to enter your user ID or password for like every request or page load, because that would be really annoying. Yeah, that's because app remembers the principal as the currently logged in user in the context of the application. This term in the context of the application is super important. There may not be a one-to-one mapping between a user or a human being and a principal, okay? Take Google, for example. A single person can create multiple Google accounts. So Google has multiple email IDs or accounts sitting in the system that actually correspond to one user. When the user logs into Google, let's say they're using the credentials of account A, then the principal corresponds to account A. There is a currently logged in user which corresponds to account A. Then the user can switch their current login to account B, and the principal corresponds to account B. So the best way to think of a principal is as the currently logged in user or currently logged in account. Okay, on to the fourth term and the fourth concept. We've looked at how authentication happens, knowledge-based or position-based or whatever else. Now, how does authorization happen? How does the application decide whether or not to allow a particular access? Well, that has to be coded in beforehand, obviously. The application owner or maintainer should have specified beforehand, okay, if the user is this, allow them to use only these actions. If the user is this, allow them only these other actions. So it's like a bunch of permissions that are allowed for a given user. In Spring Security, this concept of permission is called authority or granted authority. Authorization, authority. Get it? The user is trying to do something in an application, and the application will allow or authorize them to do it only if the user has been granted authority to do so. Taking that retail store example again, the store clerk has the following authority: do checkout, make store announcements. The department manager has authorities: do checkout, make store announcements, view department financials, view department inventory. The store manager probably has all these authorities, plus things like view store financials. These are authorities. These are fine-grained permissions of what the user can do. You can configure these authorities in Spring Security for users, and Spring Security takes care of the rest. Any operation that hasn't been specified explicitly as permitted for a given user, well, the user just cannot do the operation. They can have access to only the operations allowed beforehand, or otherwise the default response is no. Now here's the thing with granted authorities. Most of the times, for most applications, they're usually too fine-grained. Let's say the retail store hires 5 store clerks. Now each of these store clerks, someone has to assign all the right authorities every time. Every time a store manager is hired, someone has to make sure all the right authorities have been assigned to them. So this can be tedious. This is where you create the concept of roles. Role is pretty much like a group of authorities that are usually assigned together. So here you create something like a role store clerk and assign all the authorities that the store clerk should have. So when a store clerk is hired, you assign them to this role and automatically they get all the authorities for that role. Role department manager is a role that groups together all the permissions that a department manager should have. See, this makes things super simple, as well as makes things consistent. Roles are more coarse-grained permissions, unlike the fine-grained permissions that authorities have. I should mention that with Spring Security, both these concepts of authority and role are often used interchangeably. In most cases, the difference is literally in just the naming convention used. You'll see similar APIs work both with authorities and roles. But remember that the concept differs mainly in how fine-grained the permission is. Fine-grained permissions are authorities. More coarse-grained grouping of permissions are roles. So these are the 5 Spring Security concepts: authentication, authorization, principal, granted authority, and roles. These are what you can control with Spring Security. You'll be interacting with the framework to configure all these different things: the authentication, authorization, identifying the principal, specifying authorities and roles, and so on. But the thing is, you don't have to do any of this configuration to add Spring Security. Spring Security can be very simply just added to any Spring Boot application, and it has some secure, out-of-the-box behavior without you having to configure anything really. Check this video out to learn how to add Spring Security to your Spring Boot application, and you'll see a very interesting behavior that happens to your application once you do that. Check out this video, and I'll see you there.